Plan stakeholder management is a process to identify strategies to effectively engage stakeholders throughout the project lifecycle. Now, what kind of inputs can we expect in this process? We need to know about our project plan. So the first input which comes for this process is project management plan. In the project management plan, we will come to know about life cycle of a project. Life cycle has a big impact on stakeholder engagement level or strategies which we want to apply to. For example, if we have a predictive life cycle, we may engage big amount of stakeholders in the initial stage of the project, but as we progress, we may start reducing the stakeholder engagement. But if we are following adaptive or an iterative life cycle, the stakeholder engagement remains consistent throughout the project life cycle. We also understand various complexities like procurement roles. We understand the details of time and milestones, risk-related approach. All these things and other subsidiary plans helps us in identifying strategies for engaging stakeholders. Now the second input is a list of a stakeholder, which is coming from our identify stakeholders process, and we get a stakeholder register. Now we can look like this is the list and this is the plan. Now in order to achieve this plan effectively, we need to get support of these individuals. So in a plan stakeholder management, we identify strategies, action plan for engaging these guys in order to achieve a project objective or a project management, execution of a project management plan. As usual, we cannot ignore the enterprise environmental factor and organization process assets, because the strategies will get impacted by the way the structure, environment we are working in, and organization process assets will always help us in making those strategies. The tool and technique which are used in this particular process is analytical techniques, meetings, and expert judgment. So let us look at analytical technique. Now in an analytical technique, there was a tool. So we can use any tools which can facilitate us in identifying the current engagement level of our stakeholders and identifying the desired engagement level. So a possible tool which we can use in this particular technique is stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. This is a matrix which is called stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. So what is this matrix? It talks about various stages or a classified areas. We can say various possible type of engagement we can expect from a stakeholder. Like the stakeholder is unaware, stakeholder is resistant for the work, or a stakeholder is neutral, supportive, or leading. So we can make such kind of categorization or stages for stakeholders, and in a row level we can have a list of stakeholders, stakeholder 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we, in this matrix, we try to identify where this stakeholder stand as of now. Is he neutral. We say yes, his current stage is neutral. What do we want him from in future? We want to bring him from neutral to leading position. So that would be the desired state. So when we are making this stakeholder management plan as an output of this process, we need to identify how do we reach here. We need to identify the action items to bring this man from C to D. Now there could be a reverse possibility also. There could be one given stakeholder who is right now leading, but we want him to bring back to just supportive. We don't want him to be influencing many project decisions. So our desired level could be a step back. Now this assessment, stakeholder engagement matrix, we do with the help of experts. And those experts who may be sitting in a meetings and identifying the current and the desired level of the engagement we expect from these stakeholders. So the other two tools and techniques which are required in plant stakeholder management are expert judgment and meetings. You will find usually meetings and expert judgment comes together because a group of experts would be sitting in the form of meeting and making these kind of assessments. So as an output of this process, we get stakeholder management plan. Stakeholder management plan. Now, this stakeholder management plan would be documenting the current and desired state of engagement, maybe in form of stakeholder engagement matrix itself. So it would be talking about what is the current stage of engagement and what is the desired stage. It will also talk about the interest and influence area of these stakeholders. It will also talk about information requirement or a communication requirement of these stakeholders. Information need / communication need. We will talk about why they need this information, why information is needed. Now, there is some level of overlap between stakeholder management plan and a communication management plan. Because in a communication management plan also we talk about what would be the format of information and how frequently we would be sending it. So here also we give a frequency and format related details. But we also need to understand that the primary difference between these two management plans. The communication management plan is more about how part of it, how the communication will flow from a project office to stakeholders. Who will do it, at what frequency he will do it, what kind of format he will use, what kind of channel he will use. These things are detailed in communication management plan. But in a stakeholder management plan, the major focus is why the information is needed. Because the person is at a one level of engagement and he needs those information. He's interested in knowing the expense related details because he's a cost sensitive customer. There could be a stakeholder who is very sensitive about risk related information. So we here in a stakeholder management plan, the focus is talking about why this information needed and what kind of elements can satisfy that particular need. And this plan will also talk about actions we need to take to bring stakeholder from its current stage to a desired stage. Now, We need to also understand one more important difference between these two. The stakeholder management plan is a very sensitive document. It is not as openly available as communication management plan or any other plan. Why? Because here we are doing stakeholder engagement assessment. If one particular stakeholder will came to know that you have marked him as a resistant or as a neutral, he may not feel good about it. So you need to control the access of stakeholder management plan carefully. You as a project manager, you are responsible for keeping this information only with the people who needs it or who you authorize it. So it's a sensitive information. Now, we get first output is stakeholder management plan. What other output we can get? The other output is update of a project document. And one of the possible project document which may get updated is stakeholder register, which was also an input of this particular process. So the second thing which we can do is update project documents like stakeholder register, risk register, because if you find that some particular important crucial stakeholder is at a neutral stage but you need him at a supportive stage, you may see a risk if he remains at that particular stage for long. So you may need to talk about update a risk register or any other project a document may get updated. So as an output of plan stakeholder management process, we get project stakeholder management plan. This is stakeholder management plan will guide us in our subsequent processes, and this also gives us an actionable list to bring the desired level of engagement in stakeholders.